by giving ourselves away?
Well, there it is. So she would manipulate the biological order, settled up in her terms, whereas John Paul II is saying to let yourself rest in the natural order.
In other words, engage, not just rest,
Yeah,
but
engage.
engage the natural order.
Engage.
Absolutely. Because once we find out who we are, you know, that's the deal. And let's go back now. Let's go back a second to the beginning of the Wednesday audience talks. It's something that I think that I need to mention. Why did he sit there and go over the original unity of man and woman and marriage and family and all of this, the spousal meaning of the body vis-a-vis humani vitae, all of that stuff? Why did he do that?
Because of how bad everything was going.
You got it. In terms of what he was talking about, he believed that there was a deep, an abiding problem in the world. And it wasn't just how we prayed or didn't pray, or how we got ready for the sacraments or didn't get ready for the sacraments, and all of that. It was fundamentally, it was down so deep that it was like, for us, bone cancer. Okay? So you have to go down there, way down there, and try to figure out what that is. What was that bone cancer? It was how we look at each other. How do we see each other? See? And what he was saying was, we no longer know how to see each other, look at each other as the other. So, particularly men looking at women and women looking at men, we see something that is really not there. We see mostly objects and not subjects. So what does he do? He says, bone cancer needs a deep down remedy. And it's going to take more than a morphine drip and layers of gauze. That's what he's saying. What does it take? It's going to actually take getting back to the absolute fundamental way that we actually look at the reality in front of us. That's the problem.
Well, what he addressed was totally 180 of where society was with the sexual revolution, contraception, feminism.
Where society was?
Right.
Yeah.
At that point.
See, he grew up, he was in the 20th century. In the modern period, the 19th century, when all the great minds were sitting there and saying everything rises must converge and all that sort of thing, Hegel was doing his thing, Immanuel Kant, the categorical imperative, the whole thing. We had it all together. I mean, the idealists had this thing worked out. We had utopians working night and day, figuring out how to make up a utopia. What happened? We had World War I, we had World War II, we had the Korean War, it was just devastation. So basically, he grew up underneath those two totalitarian regimes. So basically, what he was thinking, because he was a philosopher, he was saying, what in the world is the problem here? And it came down to human dignity and what makes up the human being. What does it mean to say that a human being is made in the image and likeness of God? What does that really mean? And what does it mean when I give myself to another person and that person then gives herself back to me? What does that mean? See? So that's where he's going with this, and that's why he's going there. Okay, so let's keep going. Oh my goodness, all right, the text. Anything on 2 and 3? I don't think so. Let's go all the way to translation 11. I didn't have you read that, did I, the translation? Did I?
No.
No, okay. All I want to do is say that the translation, in my opinion, is really remarkable. In the first 2 editions that I read, you would come up with a phrase, the nuptial meaning of the body. The nuptial meaning of the body. Now, it comes, the critical text is in Italian. So they were translating the Italian into nuptial meaning of the body. And that always slowed me up as a person. I was sitting there, what does he mean by nuptial? See, because nuptial to me means part of the wedding. Like the nuptial promises and the nuptial this and it has to do with the kind of the ceremony. That, at least that is what it seems like to me. See, I knew he meant something deeper than that, but I didn't quite know what it was. Michael Waldstein has changed it in the whole entire translation. It is now the spousal meaning of the body. Now that's obvious, is it not? Everybody has a spousal meaning to their body. This is as obvious as your body. Doesn't mean you have to be a spouse. It means you have the ability to give yourself as a radical gift to another in marriage because you have a spousal meaning already in you. See? You're not a neutral, are you? You're a man or a woman. There's another thing here in translation, and that is what? Oh yes, he talks about, what is it? Ezer Kenegdo. Remember Ezer Kenegdo? Remember that? Okay. He brings that up in this, it's on page 12. Look at page 12 for a second. The first full paragraph. For example, he says in the middle of that paragraph, first full paragraph, for example, in the crucial verses about the reason for the creation of Eve, that is Adam's solitude and the consequent need for help, Genesis 2:18-20, the CEI version follows the Vulgate and understands the Hebrew kenegdo as simil alu. No way. Yeah, yes, whatever. Okay, that is similar to him. Thank you, Father. We're going to be calling on you again and over again. All right. Eve is created as a help similar to him. In TOB 8:3, John Paul II uses this understanding of the Hebrew to argue that the likeness of nature between Adam and Eve is an important element for understanding the manner in which Eve is a help. The OR translation, L'Osservatore Romano, okay, is a helper fit for him. Remember that? That's RSV, which is another acceptable way of understanding the Hebrew. Yet it pulls the scriptural rug out from under John Paul II's argument. Why does a helper fit for him suggest a likeness of nature between Adam and Eve? And we've gone over that. We went over that with Peter Stein. But it's interesting that Michael Waldstein picks that up. That's one of those little threads that you can hang on to. Okay. Then lust. In the first two editions, every time that there was a certain word, desire, the word was translated lust.